In this video, I'm going to show you step by step on how to overclock your CPU on z790, z690, your Pcores, your Ecores, your Ring, specifically on an MSI motherboard. And this will work on all K CPUs. So for this video, I'm using a 14900K, a 13900K, 13700K, 12900K, 12700K. It's the same process. So also, I'm building off my previous two videos, so I recommend watching those, but you don't necessarily have to. So, I mean, actually, you do, because there's CPU settings in my, not my last video, but the video before that, I have CPU settings, so watch that and get those settings. So basically, what we're going to do first is we're going to set the CPU Vcore voltage to 1.26. Then we're going to set the load line calibration to mode 5. And I'm looking for a 60-ish millivolt V-drop. And that's under load. So basically, you don't know what happens. Under load, the voltage is going to drop a little bit. So basically, it should drop to 1.2-ish with mode 5. Then we're going to run Cinebench. If that passes, we're going to increase the P-core frequency. And then we're gonna run Cinebench again, and we're gonna keep doing that until Cinebench errors. And then we're gonna mess with Vcore, and we're gonna increase Vcore or increase the load line. So for example, like load line 4 is like a 40-ish millivolt V-droop instead of a 60. And then we're gonna run OCCT CPU plus RAM for 30 minutes. This is the stress test. The main stress test. The Cinebench is like it's a stress test also, but it's not as rigorous stress test as OCCT. Then we're gonna increase the Ecores, then the Ring, and it's important to note that I like to keep my CPU under 90 Celsius. For this video, we're gonna keep the CPU under 90 Celsius, and we're gonna keep the Vcore under 1.32 load voltage. What that means is when it's under load, under Cinebench load or OCCT load, the Vcore should be under 1.32. That's how I like to do it. I know some people are like, oh, 1.4 is fine. Personally, I like to keep it under 1.32 Vcore load and under 90 Celsius. So now we're in the BIOS, and you want to look for voltage settings. You want to go to Digi All Power. You want to set load line to load 5. Also, it's important to note that just because I'm sitting at load line 5 or mode 5 on MSI doesn't mean if you're like an Asus or an ASRock you set to mode 5. You need to just test each modes to see how much V-drop it is. And on Gigabyte, it's called different. Gigabyte uses like high, medium, ultra. They don't use mode 1, 2, 3. ASRock, Asus, and MSI use mode 1, 2, and 3. So keep that in mind. For MSI and ASRock, the higher the number, the less V-droop. On Asus, lower the number, the less V-droop. And on Gigabyte, I think Ultra is like, I think it goes from medium high to Ultra. I think Ultra is the lowest V-droop. So that's how it works. So for MSI, we're going to start with mode 5. Overcurrent protection enhanced, switching frequency, max it out. Then we're gonna go to voltage core mode, override, and we're gonna do 1.26. And then I'm just gonna increase the peak core to 5.5 because they should just work. And then we're gonna go test it. So we're back in Windows, and we have Cinebench in R15 Extreme open. You want to open it in Benchmate. Download Benchmate. It has Cinebench and hardware info. And so I have the Vcore here. To get the graph here, you just have to double click Vcore and it pops up. And then you just run Cinebench and then open hardware info and just look at it. So we started off with like 1.256 Vcore and it dropped down to 1.188. Which that's like a 70 millivolt V-droop, which is fine. I said 60-ish. And the P-cores are 5.5. We're pulling 220 watts, 70 Celsius. and it's running. And it passed. So now I'm going to go in the BIOS, put the Pcores to 5.6, and run Cinebench. We're back. I set the Pcores to 5.6. We're going to run Cinebench. Pcores are 5.6. It's running. Let's see if it passes. It passed. So now I'm gonna and the temperature is at 70 Celsius. So now I'm gonna go in the BIOS and set it to 5.7. So now I set it to 5.7 in the BIOS. Let's see if this passes. And I think it froze. Yeah, it froze. So it did not pass. So now that you have two things you can do. You can either increase the Vcore or increase the load line calibration. I'm going to increase the Vcore to, so we had it at 1.26. I'm going to set it to I'll set it to 1.29 and then we'll run it again. We're back in Windows. I changed the Vcore to 1.29. So let's see if this passes. So it's running so far. Let's see if it crashes. Pcore is at 5.7. Voltage is at 1.21. Running a little hotter, 72 Celsius. Putting a little more power, 230. Looks like it's gonna run. And it does. So now I'm gonna go into BIOS and change the Pcores to 5.8. So we're back, and I set the Pcores to 5.8. This probably won't run. We'll see. Yeah, it froze. Alright, so I'm going to increase, let's see, I was at 1.29. I'll increase the Vcore to 1.35. I'll do a big jump. So I changed Vcore to 1.35. You look here, it's at 1.34. Oh, I also forgot to mention earlier, if you have a Vout sensor, you want to use that instead. I don't. This motherboard doesn't. It just has a Vcore. Vout would be here, where next to IOut, but I don't have a. This motherboard doesn't have a Vout. It just has a Vcore. So let's see if this runs. So let's see. The voltage drops to 1.26, and it's running so far. Pcore is at 5.8, but temperature is at 80 Celsius. Power draw 270. And it runs. Perfect. So now I could try to do 5.9, but I probably won't because I'm already under load at 1.26. You know, let's try 5.9, see if that runs, actually. Then we can run OCCT. So we're back here. I set the Pcores to 5.9. Let's see if this runs. It's probably not going to run. We'll see, though. Yeah, it doesn't run. I can try to make this work. It's probably not going to work. I'm just going to lower it back to 5.8 gigahertz and run OCCT. And then see if that's stable. So we're in OCCT. First, let me go over some settings. Disable check for updates. Disable stop on. Actually, you probably should enable this. Or no, just disable it. Stop on error and stop on way error is important. And I disable monitoring because I use hardware info. Then you want to go to stability test, CPU plus RAM, large, normal, variable, 1, auto, and you click start, and then you wait for 10 seconds. And then you click start, and then so I set the Pcores back to 5.8. The voltage I kept the same, 1.35, and load line 5, the same as last time. And so pretty much here, this is like an actual stress test. And so you want to monitor temperature, make sure you don't go over 90 Celsius, because this parts of the stress test will be hotter than Cinebench and pull more power than Cinebench, parts of the stress test. So what you want to do is you want to let this run for 5 cycles. When this says 6, then it's stable. So I'm gonna let this run, see if it errors, or if it errors, we're gonna increase the voltage. If it passes, well, then we're stable. And then we can try to see if 5.9 is stable if I get 5.8 stable here. So now it passed 33 minutes. It's on its 4th cycle. So now I'm going to try to see if 5.9 works by increasing the voltage. I think I'm just going to keep the voltage at what it is and increase the voltage just a little bit and increase the load line to mode 4. So I changed the Pcores to 5.9. I changed the load line calibration mode to mode 4. And the Vcore to 1.36. So let's see if this runs now. 5.9. Nope, it froze. Okay, so let me try. Let me increase it a little more, the voltage. So now I set the low line calibration mode to mode 3, and I changed the Vcore to 1.38. Let's see if it runs 5.9. And no, it closed. Okay. So yeah, I don't want to increase the voltage anymore. So for this setup, my max Pcore is 5.8. So now I'm gonna go back to 1.35 volts and mode 5 on the load line, which is what we had, which was stable for us on mode on 5.8 gigahertz, and I'm going to increase the Ecores to 4.5. So I set Pcores back to 5.8, and I set the Ecores to 4.5, and I set the load line calibration back to mode 5 and the Vcore back to 1.35, and let's see if this runs. And it crashed. Okay. So now that's interesting. I didn't think it was gonna crash. So now I'm gonna increase the load line calibration mode up to mode 4 and see if that works. Now let's see if 4.5 on the Ecores runs with mode 4. Okay, yeah, this is gonna run. 4.5 on the Ecores. Voltage is at 1.29. So yeah, the max Ecore you usually can run is 4.6, but that's not gonna run, no way, because I'm already at 1.29. And like I said, under load, I like my Vcore under 1.32. So there's no way 1.46 Ecores is gonna run. So now I'm gonna run OCCT. So here we're 30 minutes into OCCT, and 4.5 seems to be stable. Now I'm going to show you how to overclock the ring. It's the same process, but there is one important thing in the BIOS that you have to change. So to overclock ring, what you have to do is you have to do this disable ring downbin. This is very important. And you want to start off with 50 and 50. This is a 50 and 50 for 13th and 14th gen. If you're on 12th gen, you want to start off with like 46. If you're on 12th gen, start off with like 46 and increase it slowly. Actually 45, not 46, yeah. If you're on 12th gen, start off 46 and run Cinebench, run OCCT. On 13th and 14th gen, 50 should work on all CPUs. Unless your CPU is degraded, then it might not work. And now I know the CPU does 51, so we're gonna do 51. And yeah, same process, run Cinebench, run OCCT. Okay, we're here with 5.1 ring. And in case I didn't say it earlier, the process of overclocking the Ecores and the ring is the same as overclocking the Pcores. So here, looks like it's gonna run 5.1. Usually, most CPUs can do 5.1 ring if you're on 13th and 14th gen. 5.2, 5.3 ring. 5.3 is very rare. 5.2, oh, and it doesn't run. 5.1 doesn't run. I thought it would. Interesting. So, what should I do? I was already reaching 88, 89. Yeah, so I don't want to increase the voltage anymore because I'm close to 90 Celsius. So I'm gonna lower it to 5 gigahertz and run OCCT, and then that should be fully stable. So it's been 34 minutes. It's on its 4th cycle. Again, I recommend 3 cycles, which is about 30 minutes. Or sorry, I would say the minimum you should run this is 3 cycles, and that takes about 30 minutes. I recommend running it for 5 cycles. So when the cycle here it says 6, and that takes about an hour, like 55 minutes. So for my final overclock, I needed 1.35 Vcore in the BIOS with load line 4, and I was able to get 5.8 gigahertz on the Pcores, 4.5 gigahertz on the Ecores, and 5 gigahertz on the ring right here. So yeah, that's how you overclock your CPU. If you have any questions, just comment it down below and I'll answer them.